I've been saying the Boston Celtics need better effort, but what does that really look like? What does it mean when they're not trying? We'll explain it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Jrue to KP, tap in daily. Primetime Depp and D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and I got you covered every day, Monday through Friday, whenever they play on the weekends. So make sure you're subscribed, watch the show on YouTube, get into the comments section. I would love it if you share the podcast. If you're already subscribed and you love the show, spread the word, tell everybody to be listening to and watching the show, and that just really helps me out. I'm John Karalis. If you're new here, I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now. I'm doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. So I'm in there. I'm talking to the guys. I'm talking to Joe Mazzulla, giving you an inside look at what we're seeing here from the Boston Celtics, who are struggling defensively. We've talked about it a little bit. So today we're going to get into two things, the continuity and the effort. And I say effort. I stand by the effort analysis. But what does that look like? Well, I can tell you what this podcast is going to look like. It's going to look like me and Tom Westerholm talking about all this stuff. Tom Westerholm, what is up, my friend? Happy New Year.
Hey, yeah, almost, huh?
Yeah, almost. This is the New Year's Eve show, so
yeah,
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. 2025 is here, and I'm already just going to say, can't end soon enough. So, I'm just going to assume
2026.
I'm just going to say, here comes 2026. I hope it's a better year than 2025. I just have this odd feeling that might be true already.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. So later on, we'll get to the continuity stuff. I want to talk about the effort because there's no doubt to me that fully engaged Boston Celtics looks different than this Boston Celtics. They just look different defensively. And I stand by my conclusion that the effort isn't there. But you look at it and you say they're trying. It's not like they're not. If they weren't trying at all, they'd lose by 40, right? Yeah. They would just go out there be going through the motions. So they're trying to do stuff. So my initial thing, and you tell me what you think here, is last year it was, what can we do to win these games? And I think this year is, what can we get away with and still win these games? I think that if I wanted to sum up the argument that I'm going to go into much greater detail, I think that probably sums it up best.
I think there's a lot to that, and I'm excited I'm excited to hear you lay it out. I think one of the things that's funny about this stretch, right, is when you look at the numbers, it just doesn't quite back up what we're all clearly seeing, right? Like that, like the defense just isn't there. And going into last night's game, they're like 7th in the last 2 weeks in defensive rating. Like it's not as bad as you would think. The 3-point numbers are as bad as you would think, but the defense doesn't, the numbers don't back it up, which is kind of funny. And it kind of goes to what Joe Mazzulla was saying after the game last night, where it was like, well, some games we've been good on defense, some days we've been, bad on defense and, good on offense. He was kind of talking about how it's been a little bit of both. And I mean, there's something to that, but also, I don't know, it's weird to talk about that with this team where that wasn't an issue last year, really. Like there weren't defensive issues last year. And then Joe spent the entire offseason talking about we got to be hungrier. We got to be pack animals. We got to consume our opponents. We got to it's not really what's going on. So some dissonance there for sure.
Yeah. Look, it's not always there, right? When I say the effort isn't there, it's not like it's never there. It's there for stretches. It's there for some games. It's there. Like the first game against the Pacers, I was like, this is much better. This is much better. They are engaged. They are disciplined. But when it's not there, it's very much not there. And I think they do a good job of spreading it out. So there's like one game where you're like, oh, this is awful. One game you're like, it could be better. And one game you're like, oh, there it is. That's exactly what we're looking for. And that makes it so they're 7th, but 7 good defensive teams in today's NBA. There are a lot of teams who just aren't that good defensively. And so there's going to be like a bottom 10, and there's going to be that middle 10, and the Celtics are at the back end of the top 10. And I guess the point that I'm making is, or that a lot of people are making is, well, you should be at the top end of the top 10 because you're that good.
Yes.
And so, all right, so I'll lay it out. How does it not show up? Where is no effort showing up? There's a couple of places that it's when you're in help. Are you, very simply, are you bending your knees? Are you in a defensive stance and help, or are you standing straight up? So when there's Jayson Tatum, there's a specific play that I'm thinking of. Jayson Tatum on the right block, and he's guarding a 3-point shooter, and he's in help. And I think the Celtics were in a spot here where they're saying, we are not actually going to help. We're not actually going to rotate over. So this is where no effort shows up. Jayson stands there. Maybe Jaylen, maybe Derrick White gets beat on the left side, and Jayson just stands there, and they go in and they score. And you say, well, we're not helping. Fine, you're not helping because you don't want to go over in rotation. But here's where what effort looks like. He is down in a defensive stance, active stance. So the guy driving from the opposite side thinks he's in help. And when that guy gets beat, you jab over, you do a little hop, you kind of make it look like you're going to help. So you're not sliding over and switching and Xing out all that other stuff. You're showing something. You're putting in an effort to try to trick that guy into not taking the layup. Oh, I'm coming over to help. No, I'm not. I'm stopping. I'm planting my foot. I'm getting you to try to pass over to my guy. But because I'm not actually helping, I've planted. I've gotten there as fast as the ball has gotten there. I've gotten to the shooter. He's not getting a shot, and they got to work the ball out. And that starts the rotation up again. And now the ball's at the top of the key, and 7 seconds have come off the shot clock. And now that's easier to defend because that guy has to take a shot. The guy at the top of the key, very likely Derrick White, a smart defender, says he's looking at the shot clock down the opposite end of the floor and saying, 6, 5 in his head, 4, 3. He knows at some point that shot's going to go up, and now he can anticipate. That's effort defensively. Go out there, show that guy, trick that guy. Even if you don't trick him and he goes in, at least make it look like you're engaged and doing something.
Even if you don't, even if you're not, even if you're not like fully on it, like even if you're not going to shift over, if you're engaged, you could also grab a rebound. Like maybe the guy misses the layup. Like maybe you're like,
maybe you've sped him up.
Doesn't help.
Right. So that type of stuff is where effort defensively, like when I see that, I know they're not. He's not trying defensively. Closeouts, big place to show no effort, because you know what takes no effort? Running to a guy at full speed and flying by him. That takes no effort. It looks like effort, but it's not really effort. What really takes effort is sprinting to a spot, chop, 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 get there, hand up, slide with the guy. That's what effort looks like. But when the Celtics are just, oh, look at me, I'm really trying hard. Ooh, nice flyby. That's not really effort to me. Why are you doing that? Now you're 5-on-4. So that's where effort doesn't show, where it shows itself. It's those things that when the Celtics are undisciplined, it shows up. We'll continue this because it's when these little things aren't happening, it might not show as like people might not recognize that they're not fully trying. And like I said before, it's that full engagement that's the difference. They're not matching the other team's intensity. We'll talk about that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready for a boost in your confidence and to take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has a solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you could get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started right now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, you can get 40% off your first order when you use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX. Better sex made simple. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the new Locked On Celtics newsletter at lockedondaily.com. The new Locked On Celtics newsletter has Celtics, NBA, and league-wide coverage. Go check it out. LockedOnDaily.com. Click on that Celtics logo. Free directly to your inbox. Open it up, read it, have fun with it, and enjoy our newsletter. All right. So the other thing, Tom, that I saw is complete miscommunication. And this is another way that a team can be super lazy. Man, and look, the Pacers had a great game plan attacking Boston switches. They found ways to get Miles Turner deep in the paint on Derrick White, and it was very effective. They got mismatches all over the place, and it worked. But the laziest thing you can do is not talk on defense. And if people aren't pointing and saying this, do that, if you don't see that on the floor, if you're not seeing guys pass off the players and talking, then what you are going to see is those miscommunications. And it's very easy to look at a guy and be like, man, he's sweating, he's breathing hard. Yeah, he is. He's also not talking, maybe not calling out a pick, maybe not saying he's switching, maybe not paying attention to what's really happening. And if you're not engaged mentally, like that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The details go away when you're being lazy.
Yeah. And it's so easy to spot a team that's not communicating, and that's kind of like the bare minimum, right? Is like to just like, okay, like if you want to be a good defensive team, the bare minimum is that you kind of know what you're supposed to be doing and you're thinking about it and you're focused on it. And it's very obvious when that's not happening. I think that's one of the things, when we watch the team early in the year and you see them play the Cavaliers that first time, and there's this absolutely obviously different thing happening on the defensive end, and you can just see it. And part of that is like, part of that is effort, part of that is physical effort and moving your feet, but so much of it is just, where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, and you're locked in on that, and you're thinking about it, and you're talking about it, and like you said, you're communicating. Like, it's just, when you watch a basketball team, it's just very eye testy, but you can see it very clearly when a team is not versus when they are, and that's, again, you go back to last year. It's like that's one of the things that set last year's team apart, was like there always was that kind of mental engagement, or I don't know, like not always, but there was a lot, like most of the time, the vast majority of the time, there was a very clear amount of mental engagement. And that, that's really just step one defensively. Is
Yeah.
just know where you are, be present in your moments.
Know where you are and know what you're doing. Know what are we switching? Are we switching 1 through 4, 1 through 5? Are we in a zone? Are you calling out when somebody's, on the baseline, somebody's back door?
Are we switching talking? 1 through 5? Because if so, you better talk. you better.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So, they're being held to a high standard, right? They can sit there and be like, "Hey, yeah, no, we're still 7th, top 10." Yeah, that's true. You're top 2 or 3 offense and 7th defensively. That puts you in the mix. But the Celtics aren't supposed to be in the mix. They're supposed to be the mix. They are supposed to be at the top of everything. They are supposed to be the standard against which all other teams are measured. And I'm sorry, yeah, there's some continuity stuff. But if I saw things happening where I'm like, oh God, they just don't have the horses for this, then I wouldn't be talking about effort. I'd be talking about they don't have the horses for this.
Yeah.
And they didn't have Porzingis. They didn't have Holiday. And there's no doubt there were portions of that game where you're like, Holiday would have helped here. I think Porzingis would have helped. They scored a ton of points in the paint. Porzingis would have helped. They read the stat on the game broadcast where Celtics were like in the 20s or something points in the paint allowed, and at the top when Porzingis came back. And now they allowed a ton of points in the paint. Okay, I get it. Like that's you make your choice and you run them off the 3-point line. But you still have to make sure you're doing those basics, those things that we've been talking about. If you're in help, then help at the right time. Don't do like Luke Cornett had one of the worst double teams ever late in the fourth quarter. Like that's I know it's Luke Cornett, but also, buddy, that was a poor decision. You got to understand what you're trying to do, and you just got to execute it. And if they beat Sam Hauser off the dribble, then you're like, Tyrese Halliburton is better than Sam Hauser, and you got to deal with it. Which brings us to the continuity issues because.
Well, but real quick before you get to that too, I also want to say the Porzingis thing. It's like we just watched them win a title with him not on the floor for most of the playoffs. Like, yes, I know you can do this without him in there. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot easier when you got Mr. Mr. CN Tower back there just waving his long arm around. But I don't know. I've seen you do it. I know you can. So
it is true. Yeah. It is true. We've seen him do it, and they
talk about them being held to a high standard. It's like we hold them to a high standard because we watched them win a title and look really dominant doing it. And also, when they did that, they did it mostly without the guy who. It's like, oh yeah, the Celtics, they're just not quite the same rim protection team without Kristaps. Porzingis, okay, but they're still a championship team. So
right.
That's the standard we hold them to.
This is the continuity thing from Sean Grandy, who tweeted out on Monday night. 40% of the way through the season, the Celtics starting lineup, and that's the Porzingis starting lineup, has played together in 6 games. For a total of 85 minutes. And he said, I was curious to see where the starting 5 ranked last year. Figured it would be a little higher. Celtics starting 5 played 623 minutes together last year, 6th most in the NBA. Right now, they're 39th in the NBA with that starting 5. So there's no doubt that there is some level of continuity at play. And I'm happy to excuse a dip in the defense.
Sure.
I am not happy to excuse the effort being where it is as often as it is on that end of the floor, because the one thing I've been saying is they've just been looking for their shooting to carry them through. And on nights where their shooting isn't there, they need their defense to kind of bail them out a little bit. And I don't mind them being an offense first team.
No,
but they are better defensively than what they're showing. We'll continue this because I'll ask you this question here. I'll ask you this question, and you can answer me at the other side of the break. At what point are we going to start wondering if the top seed is in jeopardy? I know it's probably too early now, but are we coming up on it soon? We'll talk about it in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money can help you find subscriptions that you forgot that you were even paying for. Maybe you were paying for subscriptions. You got into a relationship with somebody. You fell madly, deeply in love, and you forgot to ask this other person, hey, do you also have this subscription? There's a good chance that maybe you're both paying for something. Rocket Money can help you track it down. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. I know that I am a money spender. I just told myself I'm not going to spend any more money this year. Then I got emails about sales. I'm like, yay, I'm going to go buy myself stuff. So you can set your goals with their goals feature, and you can automatically set money aside for the future. So you don't have to stress about budgeting every month. It'll help you with that. It'll do it for you. Subscription tracker can cancel services that you aren't using anymore. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I'm here on Fridays, Locked On NBA game night on Fridays with Jake Madison, covering all the games in the association. And Locked On NBA has their regular debate show coming up in the middle of the day. So 2 Locked On NBA podcasts for you on one feed. Go check that out wherever you got this podcast. So Tom, I know we're ready to turn the page to 2025. The New York Knicks have won already as we do this podcast. So now the Boston Celtics at 23-9 are 4.5 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have won 6 in a row, 9 of their last 10. They just keep marching on.
Yeah.
The Knicks have won 8 in a row. They're 23-10. They have just the same amount of wins. So the Celtics' little swoon here has them, if they lose tomorrow, if they lose against if they lose to the Toronto Raptors, which please, if they lose to the 7-25 Toronto Raptors, we got problems. If they lose, they fall into a tie with the Knicks, and they'll fall 5 full games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not only would the Celtics have to make up, like they have to win 5, they'd have to win 5 more games than the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers would have to lose 5 more games. Are we entering like, hey, top seed, kind of not forget about it because it's so early, but they've played 32 games.
Yeah.
Right? There's 50 games left. So if the Celtics are a 60-win team, they'll have to go 37-13.
Yeah.
Right? To catch the Cavs would have to go 32-18. 18 losses. That's they're winning 87% of their games. The whole point of this is that's a lot of losses for a team on a roll like they are.
Yeah.
We might be getting close to kiss that top seed goodbye already.
I definitely think that we're getting to the point of like maybe don't make it the top priority, right? Like I mean, I don't think it was for the Celtics anyway. I think health very clearly is the top priority,
sure,
as it should be. But I think we're for sure getting to that point. 4.5 is like, it's certainly doable, big run, whatever. You can definitely do it, but like also a big run takes a lot of energy. Like if you're a team in the regular season and you go on a, I don't know, 10-game winning streak, whatever, that expends a lot. That requires a lot. And like I just don't know how viable that feels for this Celtics team right now. Maybe things change, right? Like maybe they get, but I think more what we're seeing is kind of what you touched on earlier. It's like, what can we get away with here? Like what, like,
yeah,
I think that extends beyond defense to like the regular season in general. And I mean, if you can back it up in the playoffs, like, fine, I guess, if you can get through the regular season and then look different when that rolls around in the playoffs. I don't think that's a super safe way to go about things. I think that last year's Celtics team showed matters to kind of build some good habits and to establish some stuff. But I think I don't know. I kind of think that like from what we've seen from the Celtics so far, there's very little to suggest to me that this is a team that is going to necessarily make up that ground. That's a fair amount of ground and the Cavaliers are super motivated. That's a team that wants to be winning all these regular season games and is kind of trying to say something. And it's like, are the Celtics trying to say something with their regular season this year? It doesn't feel like they are. And that's okay. But then you got to say something with how you play in the playoffs. So like,
it is okay, right? Like this is the weird part. And I've been saying this the past few podcasts, like they are in a weird place because at no point am I saying any of this that in the sense that I'm worried.
Yeah.
Right? No. I'm not worried about this team. Even if they don't get the top seed and it's the Eastern Conference Finals game 1 in Cleveland. The only thing that would upset me the most is there's a chance that I'd have to go to Cleveland twice. And I don't want to do that.
Come on,
but
you can go to Barrio.
Barrio is good. So
they have one like 30 minutes from my house here.
Oh, see, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's solid. It's a solid counterpoint.
Yeah.
But am I concerned about the Celtics winning a game in 2 games in Cleveland? We've seen them do it. I still think the matchup's in Boston's favor. I've said before, I think the Cavaliers are what the Celtics were last year, kind of mentally.
Yeah,
where they didn't like the way their playoffs ended. It's not quite as embarrassing to lose to the Celtics, the eventual champions, versus the Miami debacle that Boston went through. But still, didn't questions about the team makeup. Didn't like the way the playoffs ended. Questions about the coaching. They made their changes, and here they are, and they are on a rocket ship at this point. And we'll see how that manifests itself later on. So I'm not worried about the Celtics, but at the same time, it's why make it harder on yourself? This is, and are the Celtics building the bad habits? Are the Celtics kind of underestimating what it takes to defend? I'm sorry to use the word, Joe Mazzulla, to defend their championship.
I think it's a fair question because, like, if you look back, the history of the Celtics, it's longer in them not winning titles than it is in them winning it. You know what I mean? Like, there's been like they won last year and they were awesome, and they won last year by playing a certain way with a certain type of edge and a certain type of energy, and I mean, look, maybe they know how to just flip that. Maybe they can flip a switch, right? But like, generally speaking, that's not really how that works usually.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, look, I think, I don't know. I think there, and all the players talk about it too, right? About like building, like Derrick White last night was talking about how they, you don't want to build bad habits. You don't want to, get into kind of, I don't know, like a negative, you don't want to create negative grooves that you can just like follow. Like that's a bad idea for a basketball team. So yeah, I think, I don't know. I think it matters. I think it
does matter. It does matter. I think it does matter. But how much does it matter? I'll say it this way. I'll end up with this. We are going to find out. They are one of the biggest criticisms I've had of this team prior to winning the championship is that they didn't know how to handle success.
Yeah.
Right? How many times have we talked about they don't know how to handle prosperity? Prosperity was always their biggest thing because they were always like, Icarus. They fly too close to the sun and they're like their wings fall out. Like that. This is the I don't want this to be the long version of they don't know how to handle success because they reached the ultimate success, the ultimate prosperity. And now there's like that tiny bit of doubt. It's way off in the distance, but I can when you hear something, you're like, did somebody just, there's a tiny little voice back there going, they're back.
Yeah.
Tiny oh, remember when they couldn't handle prosperity? Hey, guess who's back?
Because here's the thing, right? Like we talk all the time about how team building and like I don't know, legacy, whatever, it's not linear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Celtics reached the top of the mountain, and that there's nothing saying that's where they're gonna stay. Like they might, there's nothing to say. Like look at 2022. They went to the finals. 2023, they had one of the worst. That loss to the Heat was really bad. Like.
Mm-hmm.
No, then you win a title and you did it. But then they didn't go straight from we made it to the finals to now we make the finals every year. They went from we made the finals to just giant fart noise. Like I don't.
Well,
I don't know, man. Like
I don't want to say I don't think this is where they are. But also, But also I don't know, maybe going on this West Coast swing or Western Conference swing and falling on their face a little bit might be a little bit of a wake up call. Like maybe going out there and being like, oh, okay, fine, we'll try, and you still lose. And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, I think it'll be instructive, right? Like I think we're gonna learn a lot. I feel like over this 4 game
it's actually going to be
like kind of
an interesting January with these guys.
Yeah.
Again, I want to make it clear. I'm not concerned about this team, but I'm not completely unbothered by this team either.
Well, you hear the little voice. I think that's the perfect way to put it, because it's like
just
this team proved
something in the
itself.
distance.
It's
something in the distance.
This team proved itself to be champions, to be championship worthy, to be like they've proved themselves to be one of the best NBA teams we've seen in years and years. And all that is still true. And it's also true that you can just there's an echo of something. And it feels familiar,
Feels like, oh wait, it's their own fault. Seems like they're not trying as hard. Feels like they think they can turn it on, but turning it on means trying to do too much on their own. And there might be a hint, a whiff. I will say that I saw Jaylen and Jayson kind of miss each other on passes a couple of times at the end of that Pacers game. Like a couple of plays that they could have made for each other, they didn't. And I'm like, interesting that Jaylen didn't make that pass. Interesting that Jayson didn't make that pass. And I think a couple of them worked out anyway, so it was fine. But also, I don't want to mask the stuff. Like, could be nothing. Again, could be nothing. But there's just that tiny bit of all right, I would love to see in the next couple of weeks here just a little more steadiness and the effort that I'm talking about, and be like, okay, that voice was in my head and not somewhere back there.
And the reason that you couch all of this stuff is because you don't want to be you don't want to overreact, right? Like you don't want to be
no.
Because the chances are that it's just hey, you're just hearing you're hearing
like a cat.
A hint of a tune that you heard once before, and it's I'll never hear that again. It's all right. It's just as plausible as the other thing, but yeah. So it's just
step one. Please just go beat the snot out of the Toronto Raptors.
You
just
gotta beat the Raptors.
Just go beat the Raptors and at least have that. All right. We'll see. Tom, appreciate you.
Yeah, but before you go, though, I also will say, though, the other thing that was funny about, like, Derrick White the other night was talking about how, like, he hasn't been – this is the toughest stretch that he's been on with the Celtics. Derrick White was not on the 2022-23, I think, team. Remember that Timberwolves game where the Timberwolves were basically bringing people out of the crowd.
Oh,
and
yes.
That one. And then, that I feel like there would be some if the Celtics lost to the Raptors, Derrick White might finally experience what it was like to be in the Celtics orbit before Derrick White arrived. So
yes. Yeah, you didn't see that. You didn't see that part. I would say comment sections like my Boston Sports Journal comment section. A few of the people that I haven't seen in a while have shown up again. And you're like,
hate to see those people start to show up again.
Hate to see those people. Yeah. That's like,
Raptors, and then they go away, and it'll be all right. So that's the answer here.
All right. Well, Tom, hope you enjoy your new year.
Appreciate you, man. You too.
All right, and I appreciate everybody. Please, everyone, go enjoy. This is the New Year's Eve show. Go enjoy your New Year's Eve. Ring in the new year. Have some fun. Please be safe. I want everybody to come back and listen to the next show. Okay. I want all of you to come back. So please just take care of yourselves. Be safe and, do whatever you need to do to get home in one piece. So please do that. And then when you do get home, you can pop on the podcast. I love the fact that you're listening, making it your first listen. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much. If you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and subscribe. Then I would love everybody to please share the podcast and tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.